So this is going to be the daily reminder for is it 234? Okay, so 234. So for some of you who've been in the media for a while now, so if you've been studying what has been happening in the media, I think after that 15% reduction in what is it? Is it lorry fare or something? That's how we put it, lorry fare. And it seems now some of the Ghanaian drivers are protesting, and it's something that for me, when I analyze, it was expected for that to happen. Of course, they are going to be rebelling against it. One practical example would be, for some of you have been moving to Accra, Kumasi, Northern region. You already know it's like Ghana. We only have like one highly standardized one-way trip. That's how I put it. That's from Accra to Kumasi. We don't have railway. We don't have other means of transportation. And when we begin to talk about the main key of transportation is we using these cars. And one interesting thing about using these cars is that now we all know how the road is. The road is under construction. It's very poor. Some of these drivers they tend to complain about it. You change shock absorbers and blah blah blah. So it now becomes like we've reduced the amount of lorry fare. But now one thing that has to come now is we are still heavily reliant on the importation of goods and services, which does factor into our GDP. So it now comes where now they have to buy their shock absorbers. And where do most of these mechanical shops, enterprises, factories, where do they get most of their goods and services from? They tend to import it. So the heavily reliance on importation now becomes the problem. And now we also got to ask, how much is duty being charged? Because before the coming years, someone will buy a car like, at least let's make it a bit conservative. Let's say someone buys a car about let's say even $20,000-$30,000. Let's say $20,000-$30,000 can get you at least some form of a car. And you get to the port and you're being asked to go through pay duties, and you're paying like, even if you're paying $20,000 for duty, like that is sick. Like that's almost 2/3 of the car you bought. It's illogical. So I find this to be very expected. That once price has now been reduced, it is now going to benefit the normal Ghanaian citizen. Of course, now I can basically from this implementation of the policy, I can take a car, pay a lesser price, and I'm good to go. So then now what happens is, what of the driver whom I'm sitting in his car is going through this bumpy roads, like, because sometimes I sit in the car, I think, yes, I quite remember when on the Bitcoin Pizza Day, when we went for that conference, as I was on my way home using this Accra Kumasi road, sometimes the car go feel hit for like some speed run inside. It not be my car, but it's like I'm feeling almost every pain of the car. If you're a man, when you've bought a car and your car gets a scratch, like how that feeling is. And it was like, it's crazy. And then now, if this person now go through all this stress, use their car to smash inside the portals, on and on, weakening nuts and bolts. And when they should go to Swami or their mechanic shop to go and buy the spare part, you give it to them like, think of it. So it's expected. What I'm saying is expected. And Ghana, like, I just want to add this. This isn't the time where what do we call it? The passengers, the citizens, and the drivers, you're going to be going back and forth and fighting. This is where now we need that because now it creates a lot of uncertainty. We need that uncertainty, and now we need to begin to make the right decisions. So now we've reduced lorry fares. Now drivers are now complaining let's not make it look like the drivers are foolish. You know, they are greedy people for complaining. I do know there are some greedy drivers in the building, but we also have to factor that nowadays it is costly to service your car. So that means that Ghanaians, you know, the policymakers, if you do see this video, what I could add on is possibly let's also begin to share a bit insight into the importation of goods and services. How do we regulate that? How do we minimize it? Because Ghana, we are heavily reliant on the importation of goods and services. Because if even if indeed we had even these steel companies that had been molding these, you know, sort of spare parts, you know, it does cut your cost a bit because you have that control. But now here lies the case: you have no power over your car manufacturing companies. You barely produce your own cars. You know, we are really starting, and it's not that commercial. We don't really have, you know, Ghana made commercial cars, like, you know, even though we say we have Kantanka, but you know, I like that man, but you know, they can even do better, because there's another time we should be having 1, 2, 3, 4 commercial Kantanka cars at least, like bus or something, you know, getting in and